Alright guys, welcome everyone. Thank you for taking time out to have me here to meet with all of you and kind of have this fun little interaction with you to kind of reveal the mystery about latex and how we're going to make it work. Because so many of us, whether it's us here or our friends, or you've heard of people talk about condoms, or maybe you've heard from your grandparents or your dad or your brothers talking about condom use, and it not always working, or it's not something that we do as men, or it's against what the church says, or whatever it might be. We're here today to kind of bring us together as gay men to kind of begin the process of dispelling some of those myths and those misconceptions, and really kind of look at how can we make using condoms or using latex more fun. How can we actually enjoy it and still get what we need out of that situation, out of having sex with our partners or whatever we might be doing. All right? Sound good? Is that what everyone is here kind of for? It's not for you know, a Tupperware party or cake decorating or anything. So make sure everyone's in the right presentation before we get started. So we've got a few things that we're going to be doing today. I've got PowerPoint up here that I'm going to be sharing with you all, kind of guide us through some very quick things. And eventually what we're going to do is we'll go through, we'll watch some videos. I'm going to share with you the steps, 7 specific steps on how you would use a condom properly and consistently. We'll watch a video, and then I'll actually demonstrate how to use a condom properly on a device that will remain a mystery until I reveal it. And then you all will have an opportunity to practice. And I have condoms available for you to use to practice putting on these mystery devices. I've also got female condoms. If any of you have ever been familiar with or heard of or used a female condom, I can also take a minute or two to kind of go through and show what that looks like, and we can also discuss how you might use one as well. All right? Okay, let's get started. The first thing I want to start off with are the objectives. So hopefully after we're done within these next 20 minutes, 30 minutes that we're together, I'd like for you all to be able to leave with 7 steps to using a condom consistently and correctly. Often this is sometimes what a lot of guys run into problems with. You know, whether you heard friends say, you know, the condom tore, it busted, it doesn't fit right, it popped off, it doesn't do this right, I hate it. It's often because these steps are not applied properly. And there's actually one particular step that's really kind of the key to making the condom work properly. So hopefully you'll be able to leave with these 7 steps. Identify one option to overcome barriers to using condoms. So we'll talk about what are sort of the consequences or the disadvantages of using a condom, and then together we'll kind of problem solve how we can overcome them. And then, as I mentioned earlier, you're going to be able to practice those 7 steps. All right? So before we get going, I want to make sure we go through some group agreements, just so that we're all comfortable in the space. I know that you all agreed to be here. Hopefully you all were aware that it was for condoms, and we were going to learn about safer sex and discuss, this, as I mentioned, like a Tupperware party for safer sex. But just so everyone's comfortable and make sure that everyone is able to feel like they can share things, have some fun in here, we have group agreements. So be respectful of other people's opinions. So other people may have different ideas, different thoughts, values, emotions, ideas, feelings about condoms or safer sex or experiences that we want to be mindful of and be respectful of. Be honest. Try to be honest throughout this whole time. If you don't want to use your own experiences, you can always think of someone else's experiences or something you've heard in the past. But try to bring everything out that you feel comfortable sharing during these next few minutes. Okay, I don't want anybody to feel uncomfortable. At the same time, I don't want you to also leave with unanswered questions or concerns. One person speak at a time. We're a small enough group. I think we can manage that. There's an option to pass. So if there's something you're not comfortable with discussing, or you don't really feel like responding, or maybe the condom that comes to you is not the size you want or the feel you like, please feel free to pass it on to the next person. And then we have ELMO. This is ELMO stands for enough, let's move on. So if we kind of get caught up on a particular topic too long, we beat it to death a little bit too much or whatever, no pun intended, then someone can say ELMO, we can just move on. Step up, step back. If someone is speaking, is contributing a lot to the group, kind of step back a little bit and maybe offer or allow someone else to step up for others to be able to be heard and share as well. Confidentiality is key as well, so that everyone feels comfortable sharing in this group, so that everything that's said here stays here, and that it's not discussed with anybody outside of this room or outside of this group. If you have cell phones, beepers, pagers, back massagers, vibrator, I don't know, maybe some of you have a vibrator in your pocket, put it on vibrate, well, that's kind of redundant, but put it on silent, so that way it doesn't disturb anybody else in the group. And then the last thing, of course, obviously, is have some fun, right? Sex is supposed to be fun, and hopefully it is fun for you, it's fun for your partners, and
I gotta turn off the record button.
and then if you learn some new things today, or you share some new things today, maybe it will be another opportunity to make your sex life with your partners that much more enjoyable, safe, and fun as well. All right, great. Any questions before we move on from the group agreements? Okay. So I'm going to do a little introduction. So you all know I'm Daniel, and I've been doing this work for a while now, almost 11 years, out with the University of Texas Southwestern. And I've worked with agencies around the country for 11 years to help them to develop their programs, develop their services to the communities that they serve, and providing HIV prevention education, safer sex education, behavioral and social science education, interventions, etc. And so this gives me another opportunity to share locally with my community different ways, new techniques, and really just kind of make sure that everyone's up to date with the information and technologies and strategies and approaches to how to use latex when it comes to practicing safer sex. When was the first time that I heard about condoms? I think it was probably when I was about 9 or 10. And I think it was mostly just kind of hearing from my dad and my cousins talking about sex and talking about condoms, mostly because everyone else pretty much was engaged with, well, not engaged, but involved with women or girlfriends at the time. And I was much younger at the time. I was like one of the younger cousins. And so I got the privilege of overhearing, eavesdropping on these conversations about sex and condoms and not using them or using them so that she don't get pregnant or whatever the case might be. So that's about me. So if you want to go through the same thing, if you just want to give us your name and then share with us whatever you feel comfortable talking about when the first time was that you heard about condoms. Who would like to start?
I'll start.
Okay.
I'm Andre, and I would say the first time I heard about condoms, I was probably like 12. Just from sleeping around with parents' bedroom, finding condoms. Hey Dad, what's this? And I'm like, well, let me get the birds and the bees talk. That was pretty much it.
All right. Thanks, Andre.
No problem.
That's good.
We'll go in order.
Okay.
I'm Robert, and the first time I heard about condoms that I can recall is probably in the 7th grade, doing like a health class. The teacher was teaching, and of course the very last thing they told us about was condoms. But of course you do hear about it before with, friends and stuff that you don't want your parents to hear about. You're talking about sex. But yeah, that I can recall at least school.
Okay. I think I remember that too. Back then, in some sort of health education class or something, about using condoms too, I think. But I remember it mostly from my cousins. So. Thank you. Who else? Who's next?
Well, I'm Jose, And I remember running across condoms in the street when I was a little kid and didn't know what those things were. But I remember specifically in the 4th grade is when I took my first sex ed class in school, and 4th grade, right? And so that's the first time that I was exposed to what a condom was and what it's used for.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Well, I'm Stephen. I don't remember when I first heard about condoms. I think it might have been junior high, maybe even elementary. Just in school, people talking about them. But I remember it during the sex ed, or health, not really sex ed, but health. I think they did talk about them, but I had already heard about them. So I don't remember. I was just a young kid, just boy talk, I guess, all other kids talking about.
Okay. All right. Thanks. So it seems like at some point or another, each of us was introduced or heard or learned about condoms through some other media or person or education class. Was there anything that you can recall or that you remember or experienced feeling or thinking about condoms, or do you recall what other people around you felt or thought about condoms along the time when you were learning about, or the first time you kind of heard about condoms?
This is when I first heard about them, I was curious. I wanted to get a hold of one just to see how it felt. Other people talking about it, some say it just felt weird, different, funny, but I had a feeling there. And, just curiosity, couldn't wait to get my hands on one just to test it out.
Okay, all right. Anybody else?
Well, I can't say that I was necessarily curious when I first was, educating on what those things were, but I don't recall any conversations that we might have had with each other. Again, that was such a long time ago.
Okay. All right. What about today? What do you hear now today that you've had a longer amount of time to be exposed to condoms and safer sex and stuff? What do you hear now about people and their opinions and thoughts and ideas and feelings about condoms?
I've heard a few people say I should use a condom.
Okay.
It was kind of the norm.
All right.
Condoms is kind of, sorry, go ahead.
You still hear the same stuff that you did back then. Questions about does it feel the same or does it make you feel different, and you still hear pretty much the same stuff.
Okay.
I think condoms have come so far. You see the commercials where they've got, like the for her condom or for her side of the condom, and then for him side of the condom, and different, lubrications that do different things for the different sex.
Yeah. All right. So, we're talking about condoms a lot, and it seems logical, particularly in our sort of time frame and for our particularly community, that condoms have been something that's become the norm, right? It's just something that either you do or you forget or you should have done, something that sometimes we kind of beat ourselves up over, especially like the morning after, or like the seconds after having engaged in sex and realizing that I should have used a condom. That just is really kind of now become a lot more of the norm for our community, for the gay community, is condoms. I'm wondering though, is there other ways besides condoms? I want to talk about this just for a minute or two. Are there other ways that sex can be made safer without having to use a condom all the time? That condom's going to be the focus, but what are the other ways that sex can be made safer and still be fun and still get what you need? What are other things that you all have tried or other people have tried or you've heard people do that can be safe or safer than not using a condom?
You don't use a condom, just no penetration, just mutual, like it's masturbation, aggressive, just stuff like that. Just make sure you don't have no open wounds.
Okay.
Careful, your body, you're safe, blowjob, it's like, I always heard, you shouldn't do that. If you're going to do it without a condom, you shouldn't do it, especially if you just brush your teeth. You should wait, I can't remember how long, because, toothbrush can irritate, leave yourself exposed, stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah. right? So mutual masturbation, like frottage or caressing, some dry humping, and then obviously just being educated about, especially if you're going to engaging in oral sex, being aware of, possible any type of cuts or recent abrasions that you may have done because of flossing or brushing. Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Good. Andre, you were just going to say something?
I was just going to say, I don't think there is a safer or another way to have safe sex. Like to go have sex without wearing a condom.
Without wearing a condom. Okay, all right. Has anyone else heard of other ways that you can engage in sex and still make it safer?
Cyber sex.
Cyber sex? How do you mean?
Safe.
That's pretty safe.
It's a good one.
Do you wear like astronaut suits and stuff? Or?
Phone sex or mind sex?
I usually put little antennas on.
That was a good Holocaust movie. These two Jewish guys who were in prison in Nazi concentration camp. They were out working in a rock field. They had sex through their mind, and they actually orgasmed.
Right. I can't remember the name of the movie. I remember that scene because it was quite hot. It was quite erotic, actually. But it was right because they couldn't touch each other and they could not look at each other, but they were falling in love with each other. And the way they were able to sort of express that for each other was that they just stood there and just through very silent communication, just them being near each other, were able to ejaculate. Were able to have that moment together, right? Well, what about other ways that you can have sex? I mean, we talked about mutual masturbation, masturbating, cyber sex. Obviously, we're using condoms. But what else could you do that would still be safe, still be enjoyable, still allow you to have that moment with someone else without necessarily always having to engage in penetrative sex or some sort of sex that could expose you to bodily fluids?
Toys.
Toys. What type of toys?
Those fake vagina or butt toys. I don't know what exactly the fleshlights.
Fleshlights, right? Good. Yep. Toys, dildos.
Bondage, I guess.
Some bondage, right?
Some people do.
Exactly. What else?
Erotic massage.
Erotic massage with oils.
Oil.
To shower together. You could do fingering, right? What else? Kissing. May not always end up with what you want to happen as a result, but it's sex. It's a form of sex, and it's still safe, right? Particularly if you're not too sure of the person or the sex partner. Especially if you haven't really started to talk about each other's status, if you don't want to go there, maybe you've had too much to drink. It might be different options that you still can engage in to enjoy the situation, enjoy the other person, without putting yourself or your partner at risk for any kind of sexually transmitted infection or HIV. So one thing is true about the condom is that it will be mostly the best way to protect against HIV. At 99%, effective with that. What we have to always keep in mind is that it's not 100% effective against sexually transmitted infections, right? So you could still become infected with a sexually transmitted infection like gonorrhea or chlamydia or herpes through sex, even with a condom, right? Because that comes in more skin contact through different mechanisms. You could have oral sex with a person, never have penetrative sex with them, and have contract gonorrhea in your throat. So then if you're having oral sex and you're not using protection, which is much safer than having unprotected sex, there still is the risk that you could still contract a sexually transmitted infection. But there are lots of other things that you can engage in that can still be safe and really make it worth the time. But we're going to focus on condoms. And so let's look at this and talk about this video that I want to show you. Let me pull it up real quick.
before you play that video,
Yes.
that coffee and water drink. Pee real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
Where's your restroom?
Oh, right.
I'll pause it. Or actually, I can. Yeah, I'll pause it. It'd be easier to. All right. So, what I'd like for us to talk about next is what are the pros and cons of using condoms? We talked about different ways that you can make sex safer, and we talked that condoms pretty much is the main way, the best way, the most effective way. The way that most of us even know is the only way to make sex safer. But often, we, our friends, people that we know, sometimes don't always use them consistently, and as we've already talked about, correctly. So let's kind of talk through those things. Let's talk about what are the pros or the advantages for using condoms. We'll just brainstorm a list. It could be anything. It could be, off the charts, something that,
It'll keep you from getting pregnant.
it'll keep you from getting pregnant. It will keep...
Well,
Okay.
obviously, safer sex.
Pros is safer sex, yes.
I like that one.
What else?
STIs,
That's
STDs.
about it. As I see.
What are other advantages that maybe you've heard, or that you even just think that are there for using a condom? Besides, obviously making it safe, protecting from getting pregnant in case you do have sex with a woman, or if that day ever comes that a man can finally get pregnant. It certainly can help reduce STI or STD infection. What else?
They're back up for balloons.
Yeah, party favors.
Birthday party ride, boys. Hold on, I got condoms.
Some people actually, I know it kind of sounds weird, but some guys have actually said that it acts like a cock ring, and that it actually helps them to last longer. And you kind of hear that the opposite, right? Probably when we get the condom, we'll hear those things. But for some guys, it can actually enhance how long they can stay erect. So. Any other pros for using a condom? Or why you would use a condom? Or for their purpose, for their use? Okay? What about cons then? Alright, so we've got a pretty good list of pros and cons here going on. Feeling sensation taken away, difficult keeping erection, might cause penis to become flaccid, hard to put on or off or take off. It's time, interrupts the mood. Tear, it could possibly tear, it could possibly rip, it could fall off. Sometimes lubrication doesn't feel good whenever you're using that at the time. Some people could have allergies to the condoms, so that could be a problem for using latex. And then for some people, there could be also the concern, the issue, the challenge of the condom being too big or being too small. And then if you're using protection or using condoms or latex for oral sex, there's also the concern or issue with the taste becoming an issue or problematic. So, thinking about all these, we've got quite a list of cons going on here. What are some ways that someone or that one might go about overcoming any one of these cons? What are some options? What are some solutions that we could do or consider or think about doing?
Finding the right condom.
Yes. Okay. Finding the right condom. And what is that going to do? How does that address these things?
I mean, if you got the right size, it wouldn't. That could help with the sensation because it might not be too tight or too big. Help with keeping erect.
Okay.
Bit of comfort.
So using a different size like a Magnum, right? right?
That's what I use every time.
Or a extra large king size condom could also help with the size situation.
That was right.
The extra large one, okay? I'm actually preferring the bigger, huge female condom that kind of trunks all of you.
Shower curtain.
Good. So I think the key here is that finding the right condom can go a long way with ensuring that you can overcome a lot of these barriers and challenges. To the sensitivity, to the mood situation, the timing situation, the allergies, any one of these things can actually be dealt with by just spending time finding the right condom that fits best for you, fits best for your condom. It's going to bring you the most pleasure, and that you're going to be comfortable doing, that you feel confident actually using, and not feel like it's going to become a barrier, as we identified here. And so one thing I do want to point out is the differences are, we're talking about latex mostly, and that's generally what you see in stores or that people buy most of the time. But there's another material called polyurethane that's also available for sale. And it's usually a little bit pricier than most of the latex condoms because of the material that it's made out of. The material is intended for people that, well, for two things. One, really, is for people who do have these sort of intense allergies toward latex or using latex. It helps to alleviate with that because it's hypoallergenic. But also, it also offers an even better sensation. Polyurethane is a type of material that is different from latex. It's much more conducive to heat. It conforms a lot better. And you can use it also with other types of lubrications. So it's one that you don't always have to use just a water-based lubrication with. So you could use a silicone-based lubrication with it, or in a sticky situation, you could use a different type of, if you only had Vaseline or some other type of lubrication, you could use it with a polyurethane condom. Latex condoms, we only use water-based or silicone lubrications with.
Can I ask why?
With the latex, the oil-based lubrications will break down the condom. And so through the friction and the heat that you're generating, through all the thrill and the excitement and the, jackrabbit, it will break down, or the slow-mo, right? And not everyone's a jackrabbit.
Right.
It will have tendency to break down the condom. It could cause it then to make it easier to tear, rip, etc. So we don't use anything but water-based or silicone on a latex condom.
Okay.
However, the polyurethane you can use just about anything with. The other thing too that I want to point out is allergies and the other option here, and that is the use of the female condom. How many of you have ever seen or heard or used a female condom?
Heard of it.
Just heard of it.
All right. So female condom is used originally for obviously women to use. It was able to give them the opportunity to take control of being able to protect themselves, particularly when they find it difficult to get their partner, their male partners, to use a condom. So a female condom is created for the women, and it goes inside their, they put it inside, very similar to how they use, so they use it the same way that they use, what is that they use?
Tampon.
A tampon. It's inserted very similar to the same way they use a tampon. We're gay men, so it's not always necessary that we know some of these things. But it looks just like this. This is the outside. This is outside the woman, and then this ring goes on the inside, and it attaches inside to the uterus area so that it keeps it from slipping out of the vagina. But once it's in, it pretty well conforms to the inside.
That's self-conforming. How do they take it out? They just pull it out?
Yes, actually.
Rip.
So this will just pop. It'll just pop right out, just like just like they would tug on a tampon to pull it out. It would be the same way. They would just pop it off, and then, well, obviously before they pull it out, they were actually twisted so that the semen doesn't come out.
No, it's inside.
And then from here, they would just kind of like tug it off. Right? It's not.
Not that I'll probably never see that happen.
Right. It's good to know in case.
Right, yeah.
In case. You never know. A female friend might say, "I can't get out." Right? But for guys, you would use it the same way, except for that the ideal way would be to take the ring out here and insert it with the male penis. You can use it with the male penis. With your partner, you put it on your partner's penis and have it inserted into your anus at that time, and then it will conform to the inside of your anus, and then your partner can go in and out very simply, and just making sure that that your partner is still inside of the condom and doesn't come outside of the condom instead of using it to protect yourself. The other thing that you could do that some guys have done is they use the ring, and they will use it and leave it inside because it could be a stimulator for some people, whether it's the tip of the man's penis or even for the prostate, as it is the prostate for the man as well. So this is another option, and then again, as well as when a woman uses it, a man can use it as well and insert it up to 7 hours in advance, so that you're ready to go. There's no time issue. There's no mood issue. There's no need to prepare and have condoms available.
Can I throw these in 7 hours in advance?
Yes, you can
Really?
set this up to 7 hours in advance.
Even a man.
Yes. Yep. You can only use it once, though. Just like a condom, you should only use it once. Once you use it, then you should then twist it so that you create a twist here, and then you just pull it out so that the semen doesn't spill out. All right. So let's take a look at a video. Kind of demonstrate some of the steps on how to use protection, how to use a condom properly, consistently, correctly. Then I'll go through those steps quickly with you, and then you'll have an opportunity to practice using those steps as well, or applying those steps as well.
Use a new condom every time you have. Second, from start to finish, open the package carefully. Squeeze the tip and unroll it all the way down before you start. With latex condoms, consider using lubricants like KY Jelly or Aquaglide. But don't use products like body lotions, oils, or Vaseline. Afterwards, remove the condom carefully. And to avoid spilling, hold the rim and remove the condom while still erect. Take a bow. You deserve it. Remember, condoms should be used consistently and correctly to prevent STDs, HIV, and pregnancy. So make sure you always come prepared.
Kind of walking around cocky in it.
Right? That's that little guy that's in there.
Oh, here he is. Trying to get away. Slipping.
All right. Let me just go ahead and go through the steps with you just so you see them in action. So I'm going to demonstrate them for you, and then you all can practice in just a second. So you take a condom. Make sure that you check the expiration date. Most condoms will have the expiration date on the back. Make sure that it's current. Mine here says February 2018, so it's accurate. When you're looking at the package, you want to kind of mush it around a little bit to make sure that there's still sort of an air bubble inside an air pocket. That kind of gives you an indication that it hasn't been poked, hasn't been tampered with. To open it, you just kind of move the condom over to the side a little bit. And these rib edges here on the top, you just kind of rip down. Don't use your teeth to tear it open. In the midst of everything, I know we get rushed sometimes, but we want to avoid that. You want to make sure that the reservoir is pointed up. So we've got check the expiration date, open the pack, remove air from the reservoir. And we're going to do that by making sure first that it's pointed in the right direction, making sure that the tip is to the top. And as you put this on your an erect penis or your penis, you want to give yourself a little space so that you have a little bit more length at the top. Put it at the top tip of the head of the penis and hold here to make sure that you pull out as much of the air as possible, and then roll down. You want to roll down as far as you can with the condom. And you want this extra piece here at the front of the tip of the penis so that you have space for the semen to go. You don't want a completely tight, airtight condom fit, because this affects then the possibility of the condom tearing, ripping, popping off, because you're not allowing enough for the space to happen here. It's too tight. See how that happens there? So when you ejaculate, you want to be able to have that space to go in there. It also kind of acts as a stimulant for the tip of your head as well, and as far as your partner too. You then make sure you use any water-based lubrication if you need to. There are all different types of lubrication, and I've got some here available to you as well. Remember, there's water-based as the preferred, as well as silicone. You then do what you need to do. Use it from start to finish. Use it only one time. And when you're done, you want to try to grab hold of the top where the semen is and unroll. Grab it. Keep it from spilling anywhere. Grab it. Tie it in a knot so it doesn't come out, and toss it in the trash. Or in a piece of paper rolled up to hide it, and then put it in the trash can. Okay? Alright. Make sure you clean your devices nicely afterwards. It's quite messy. So, now it's your turn. Each of you can take a device here and get a condom or two and go through the steps of using a condom.
We have gnome-sized ones in here.
So what's the first step?
Check the expiration date.
Check the expiration date.
Yes.
Everybody's expiration date is right? Okay, then what do we do? Next,
Still there.
make
Switch
sure,
around.
right? That also kind of moves the lubrication around as well too. And then we open it
Finger.
with your finger on the rib side. Open it. And you're going to make sure that what is in the right direction.
Tip.
Reservoir.
The reservoir.
The reservoir is pointed in the right direction, so it goes onto the penis properly.
Got some advanced students up here.
What happens if you put it on the tip of your head and you realize you put the wrong side up first?
Get a new one.
You should get a new one, right? Because now you've exposed the outside of the condom to any possible fluids that could possibly contain HIV or any other STI possibility. Roll it down all the way. See, you've got lots of flap here. That's good. This is really good. That's good. Good.
Now
Okay,
it's ready to work.
Right, and now it's time to get to work. You just keep pushing in and out, and you do what you need to do. You start to finish. And you've finally reached that moment.
It happened.
It happens. It happened. It might still be happening. And then you
But
grab
wait till
hold.
you're done.
Wait till you're finished.
Yeah, okay.
Completely finished. And then you grab the top. As you unroll, you tie a knot or something in order to keep it from spilling. And then you destroy the evidence of your affection for your partner.
When you're rolling up, be careful. You don't pull a hair.
Yes.
Oh,
And you're done.
good point.
You put that in the trash. And you're ready to either go again with a new condom or roll over and go to bed.
Oh, it's time to sleep.
Yes.
No.
So those are the steps to using a condom. 7 steps to using a condom properly, consistently, correctly, every time. I think that if you use those steps effectively, you practice that you will find it much easier to be able to use a condom every time that you engage in sex with your partners. What questions do you have about anything that we've talked about so far? Good. All right. Thank you for your time. Before you leave, please be sure you complete an evaluation for the presentation, and hopefully I get to see you again soon. Thank you.